They watched. Ramarley Graham, 18 years old, another teenager. Sharice Francis, 29 years old. Francis was a mentally ill woman who had gone off of her medication. She died during a struggle with police who had been called to her home in Queens on March 15, 2012. Francis, who was unarmed, died of suffocation as officers tried to handcuff her. How do you die of suffocation with the police trying to handcuff you? Does that make sense to anybody? Rekia Boyd, 22. Boyd was fatally shot by an off-duty Chicago police detective on March 21st, 2012, as she stood in an alley with a group of friends. A man in the group exchanged words with the detective, who fired 5 shots into the alley, hitting Boyd in the back of her head. No weapon was found in the alley. Jamar Clark, 24 years old. Yvette Smith, 47 years old. Yvette Smith, a mother of 2, fatally shot on the porch of her home on February 16, 2014. A deputy in Bastrop County, Texas. The sheriff's office first said Smith was armed. Later, it retracted that statement. Tamir Rice, he was 12 years old. Rice was shot and killed in a park in Cleveland on November 22nd, 2014. Officers Timothy Lockman, let's skip their names, I don't care, responded to a call about a black male sitting on a swing and pointing a gun at people in a city park. The caller expressed doubts about the gun's authenticity and said the male was probably a juvenile, he was 12, was probably a juvenile, but that information wasn't relayed to the responding officers. Within 2 seconds of arriving at the scene, the officer fired 2 shots, one hitting Tamir Rice in the torso. Rice's weapon later was found to be a toy gun. In December 2015, a grand jury declined to indict the officers. You all played with toy guns before, right? Laquan McDonald, another teenager, 17. Chicago police officer, well, I'm gonna skip his name. Chicago police is charged with first-degree murder in the 2014 shooting of a black teenager, Laquan McDonald. The officer was charged in November on the same day that the city, on the orders of a judge, released the explosive dash cam video showing McDonald being shot 16 times. He was 17 years old. It was almost 1 bullet for every year that he lived. On the night of the shooting, the officer and his partner trailed McDonald for nearly a half a mile from a trucking yard where he was said to have been breaking into vehicles. The officer radioed for a taser in order to apprehend McDonald, who they say was carrying a knife in the middle of the road. According to the video, the officers arrived 10 minutes after the first call, and within 21 seconds, Van Dyke, that's the officer's name, had emptied his 16-round handgun into Laquan McDonald. Van Dyke pleaded not guilty and is free on bond. Akai Gurley, 28. A rookie cop in New York City was convicted February 11th of manslaughter in the death of Akai Gurley. The officer was patrolling a public housing high-rise with his gun drawn in 2014 when he fired and a ricocheted bullet hit the wall and then hit Gurley. The officer said he had been holding his weapon safely when a sound jarred him and he accidentally fired. In April, a judge reduced the conviction to negligent homicide and sentenced the officer to 5 years probation and 800 hours of community service. Eric Garner. I imagine I don't have to read to you what happened to Eric Garner. I don't imagine that I have to tell you that Eric Garner said, "I can't breathe," as his last words, as a police officer held him in an illegal chokehold and choked him to death. I'm just going to read you the end part. This is in regards to Eric Garner. Neither has been charged with a crime, the police officers that were there present. The police say Garner's poor health and his refusal to cooperate with officers contributed to his death. Police Commissioner William J. Branton ordered a review of police training techniques in the wake of Garner's death. Eric Garner's video is public for anybody to watch it. Go and watch that video too. Tell me if he resisted arrest. That's what the report says though, that it contributed to his death. That man did not resist arrest. Go watch the video. Don't take my word for it. He was selling cigarettes on the streets of New York. The cigarettes' value were about 25 cents each. And he's choked to death. Ezell Ford, 25 years old. Michael Brown Jr., 18 years old. Christian Taylor, 19 years old. Walter Scott, 50 years old. Natasha McKenna, 37 years old. McKenna died after being shot 4 times with a stun gun while her hands were cuffed and her legs shackled. McKenna, who suffered from mental illness, was in custody in the Fairfax County, Virginia jail on February 3rd, 2015, when a deputy used the stun gun on her. She died February 8th. Freddie Gray, 25 years old. Brendan Glenn, 29 years old. Samuel DuBose, 43 years old. Gregory Gunn, 58 years old, almost 60 years old. You're not too old to get murdered by the police if you're a person of color. Akil Dinkins, 24 years old. And then we know the list goes on and on. We know about the recent things that have happened in the news since George Floyd. So somebody said, the friend I was reading my reply about, he mentioned all of this over George Floyd, over one man. Even if it was all of this over one man, it would be worth it. But it's not just about one man or woman. Anti-Blackness, racism, institutionalized racism, police culture, the powers that be, it all needs to be deconstructed, torn apart, redesigned by the people that it's supposed to serve. There is no other right way to do it. The establishment is wrong, and we all know it, we see it clearly. And I don't know how many more have to die. I was a little upset, even though, I'm proud of this revolution that's happening now, but I was a little upset it took this long to get some traction. And to get people to stand up for what is right. If the roles were reversed, if white people were a minority in this country, and I was watching you guys get picked off one by one by police, by these racist groups. There was a man who went into, I think it was 2 years ago, it may have been just last year. He went into a grocery store and he started shooting every black person he saw, just in a grocery store. You imagine just going shopping, I'm gonna go get some eggs and some bread, some collard greens. And soon as you turn the aisle in a grocery store to go over to the produce department, instead you pick up a bullet. And people are like, oh, racism isn't a problem, it doesn't exist. If the roles were reversed, I'd be standing right here fighting for you.